So we are sitting in a key piece of Immaculata University's history, across the street from the main university property, across King Road off of Hershey Mill Road behind the maintenance building, sits the site of Mary Lake, the drained remains of where the lake once was. And this is a key piece of the university's history that many students, faculty members, and also even many sisters maybe are not aware of that existed. Closed in the early 1970s, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But back in the early 1900s, around 1914, when Wilmere Hall opened, is when this lake was believed to be constructed, for lack of a better word. And this was a key piece in the university's history for students, faculty members to go to during the summer months to cool off, to jump in, take a swim, kayak, canoe, and also during the winter months ice skate. So this was a piece of Immaculata's history that many people seem to forget. There's not a lot mentioned about it. During my time at the university, which I'm still a student as of now, as the date of you're seeing this video, I have written a couple articles for the Immaculatan, which is a school newspaper. I wrote an article about the swimming pool that used to be in the basement of Wilmere Hall. That closed around the same time as actually Mary Lake did. I don't want to go too much detail about it, but it actually preceded the Alumni Hall pool that opened in the early 1970s when Alumni Hall opened. And that was the original swimming pool on campus. And it was actually around the same time when Mary Lake closed. So again, Mary Lake, opened around 1914, around the time, from this vantage point, and I'll even show a picture, you could actually clearly see Wilmere Hall, back about 100 years ago. Now with all these trees and everything else that now surrounds this area, it is very overgrown and you can't see it anymore. But back in those days, of course, it was called Wilmere College, not Immaculata University. But just look at this, guys. Just look at the site of where Mary Lake, once stood. We're basically walking right in the middle of where the lake is, where it was, I guess you could say. And there is actually still a stream that runs through the lake. And it's a shame this isn't here anymore, because this would be a really cool retreat to still go to. And this is still university property, right? So this is not the township property or the county property or whatever. This is still Immaculata University property, even though it does sit across the street. It is not. There's a common belief, even some people that may know about this, that there was a lake on campus. A lot of people just seem to think that it's behind Gabriel Library. That's where I thought it was for a while, and I was trying to find it, and it turns out it's actually across the street, across King Road, off of Hershey Mill Road. There's Hershey Mill Road right up the hill there. And as we walk over to this structure right here, I guess remains of a structure, this is where the old lake house was. So the lake house burnt down prior to 1967, 1965. You can still see the foundation is still here. This is 2026, March of 2026, if you're watching this video, whenever you're watching this video. And I came back here in the summer of 2025, so last June or July, and it was very a lot different than it is now. We're just getting out of winter after a very long snowy winter, and you could really see this place a lot better now. So this is where the lake house was, and even after the lake house burned down, it was still used as a recreational platform right here. And there's a lot of pictures of this lake house. As you can see, there's still the fireplace. This was still used until the lake's closure, as you're now walking on the platform here. So you can still see the remains that just collapsed. I don't see any debris, but obviously it sat a lot taller than this, and it's a lot smaller than it was. Obviously over the years, it's just structure has collapsed somewhat, but I can't even begin to imagine how old this must be. Definitely well over 100 years old. As again, this was where they would store, when the lake house was here, this is where they would store the canoes and things like that. And you could basically jump off of this into the lake if you wanted to. This is where a lot of students would probably sit over here and overlook where the lake, was. And this is a great vantage point. This is a great view of where the lake once stood. It was all along here, right along where that little stream is running. And over the years, it's been gone, since the early 70s. So that's quite a few years ago now. And over this period of time, about 55 years or so, the soil has risen. So it looks, if you may be looking at this saying, wow, it wasn't very deep. Well, it was actually quite a bit deeper than this. It was deep enough that people could ice skate here. And it was actually deep enough, as I said before, that people could jump off. There was like a platform out there, like an island or like a little like floating wooden, you can't really see, there is a picture of it, it's not real, you can't really make out what it is, but there was like a little thing that people could jump off into the water. So jumping back into where the lake once stood, you could see it's definitely goes down a little bit from there. It's a little bit deceiving, but it definitely was deeper than it looks, because again the soil has risen. And of course they've even after they took the lake out and they drained it, they definitely like moved soil around and things like that. So it's definitely risen a little bit compared to when it was still a lake. So walking over here, the other side of the lake, that was again where the lake house was. And again, there's an article written in the Immaculata newspaper that I wrote. I'll leave that in the description. I'll also leave the Villa Maria Pool link in the description. Villa Maria Pool, very cool piece of the university's history, and many people don't know about, right? Because there's just a big wall there now in the basement across the hall from the registrar's office. That's where the original swimming pool was, and a lot of people just walk by, have no idea what was once there. Of course, there used to be windows there in the hallway looking into the pool room, and of course all those windows have now been taken out. And there's just like big wooden doors there with no windows. You have no idea what's in there unless you know. And right here, we're looking at the site of the dam remains. So this is the dam that was breached to close the lake. As you can see, there's a stream right there. And they just broke the dam and they didn't even clean it up. So it's just, you can still see the concrete remains right there. And then, again, this has been sitting here for nearly 55 years. Since the early 70s, it's just been sitting here. So nothing has changed. As we look back here, this is another view of the lake. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I mean, imagine if this was still here. I mean, it's quite a bit of ways. It's a bit of a walk from the campus, right? So it's kind of this is like a summer retreat, I guess, for a lot of people back in the day. And this was here for a long time, right? This is here for over 50 years. It's actually been gone almost as long as it was here now. It's hard to believe. It's really a shame. So just to kind of go into what caused the lake to meet its demise, back in, the late 60s, early 70s, neighborhoods, so it really started to be more developed around here. As you can see, there is a house back there. There's a neighborhood over there. And, off of Hershey Mill Road, which is right up the hill there, there started to be a lot more development that was surrounding this lake. There's starting to be, neighborhoods built and houses built. And there's growing concerns from the university, at least from what I can understand, that, liability, and insurance reasons that forced the closure of this lake. And that's when the dam was breached. And unfortunately, I had to drain it and get rid of it. And it's quite sad that, modern life has, unfortunately forced us to say goodbye to a lot of these cool things of our past. Some of it, understandably so. Just because they can't risk somebody getting in here and getting hurt. But I think from what I've heard from Dr. Jeffrey Rosalind, the executive director of the Gabriel Library, as well as Dr. William Watson, professor at Immaculata University, both of those two people, that's the story I've been told, for both of them. And, they're a wealth of knowledge about the university's history. And big thanks to Dr. Rosalind and Dr. Watson for their expertise and their wisdom and their knowledge about all this really cool stuff. So again, ice skating in the winter, canoeing, swimming in the summer, and I'll include some pictures of what it did look like. Again, there's the lake house over there, you can see. lake house right there. The remains, the foundation remains of the lake house and the fireplace. There was a picture that was taken over here in I think the early like 70s, like 71. So it must have been like right before they closed it. And I'm gonna try to walk over here. I'm gonna cross the stream here. It's a little bit sketchy here. Got a little bit wet there. There was a picture that was taken over here. And again, this was a pretty good sized lake. You know, it was a pretty good sized lake. And it was right from this vantage point about. So it was like taken like right around here. And I'll throw the picture on the screen so you could see it. So this is where the picture was. This is what it looks like now. And again, that's like approximately where the picture was. Maybe it was a little bit higher, like up here. Yeah, this is pretty cool, guys. You know, I definitely don't recommend going back here in the warmer months of the year. It's just really overridden with ticks, and there's a lot of these thorny like bushes and twigs. As you can see, I think I'm dressed pretty accordingly. I'm dressed in like this lighter color sweatshirt and long pants, you know, as a way to, you know, kind of just protect myself as best I can, and wearing, you know, protection over my head. But I am going to show you the original walkway that led to this lake. But this is the last you'll see of the lake in this video. But the next clip I'm going to show is I'm going to show where the original walkway was to the lake. As we're now walking up the hill a little bit here, it's Hershey Mill Road right up there. So you can now see, and I wrote about this in the article too, you can now see it's very subtle. So, you know, you have to really kind of look for it. I'm surprised I actually saw this last summer. You could see the remains, if you look very closely, of the edge of the walkway. What led to the lake, you can see the stone here. So this is the walkway that the students would take to go to the lake. You can kind of see how it's still here, the walkway. So it's like there's a hill here, there's a hill here, and it kind of evens out. And you could see it came right from down up there, right down here. You could still see the stone surrounding. It's right here. And it just kind of led right down here. And then, as we continue to walk down here, you could still see, you know, many students over the years walking down here. You know, gonna go take a swim to cool off. You know, maybe gonna go ice skating in the winter. Very, very cool part of history here that we can't forget. You can see the walkway still going down. You can see here's the lake house, guys. Here's the lake again. I told you you weren't going to see it again, but here it is again. Here's the lake house. See the fireplace. It's very cool back here. Very, very cool. So I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. My name is Luke Griffith. Again, I'm a student here at Immaculata University. If you want to check out my article about the Villa Maria pool, I may actually do a video about that, but that I'd have to get permission because it's, you know, it's now a closet. It's like a storage room now, like for, you know, maintenance and all that kind of stuff. So that I definitely would have to seek permission for, but this is just open back here. You know, you can just walk back here. So it's very, very cool. Hell, you could just, you know, even if you aren't even aware of the lake's existence, you can kind of tell it was something back here, you know, just by that structure there. And you can kind of tell there used to be a lot of water back here. The Villa Maria pool, again, as I mentioned before, you know, a very cool piece. You know, that, you know, again, I'll say that for the next video if I'm able to do it, but, you know, it was there up until about 15 years ago. You know, even though it had closed in the early 70s, but the pool itself, like the concrete walls and things like that, were still there, and they had just ripped it out and like filled it in like 15 years ago. So I don't know if there's a picture of the remains of the pool still around. I haven't seen any. I've only seen one picture of the pool when it was open. It did have a diving board, and, you know, we'll talk about that in the next video. But I want to thank you all so much for watching. Again, my name is Luke, and I'll see you guys next time.